Now time for the world exposed. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Internet land, welcome. And the internet land, don't we all enjoy the internet, right? There's so much goodness that we can enjoy, right? But is it all good? Is it all good? And so the digital world, the artificial world, quick segue, we're going to be talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and it learns a lot from what we put into it, what we put in the internet. It's been learning us. I think that's the creepiest part about AI, is that it has become an observer of humanity, and it can take a couple steps back from my point of view. It can kind of lay off a little bit, but humans are propelling it forward. Have you guys seen like the different companies that, the different AI companies? There's a couple different ones, right? And they're in competition with each other. They're trying to one up each other, and it's really out of control, right?
Yeah, they're racing to see who can destroy all of us the fastest.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Well, I thought AI was supposed to be a compliment to us, not our mortal enemy.
Right. And it's actually funny because when people hear artificial intelligence in the context of becoming scary or getting out of control, or perhaps even being misused at some level, I think a lot of us automatically think like Terminator, the movies and stuff like that. And while that is certainly possible, I think it's more of a subtle kind of underlying effect that'll affect everybody on a worldwide scale. Maybe in a less lethal kind of way, but certainly in other ways, like, for example, artificial intelligence, as it continues to grow and develop exponentially, as its pattern suggests, it's going to replace jobs. There's going to be a lot of things that we do now that we sort of take for granted, things that are even somewhat complex, like cooking food, chefs, packaging, manufacturing, things of that nature. That can all be replaced by artificial intelligence. And that is one of their intended goals. Of course, under the pretext that this is going to make life easier for everybody, get fat, get lazy, let machines do the work for you. But what they're not really explaining to everybody is, what's that going to do to the market? What's that going to do to society? What's that going to do to our infrastructure, how we live and function? If 40%, for example, of our jobs are taken over by artificial intelligence, what's going to happen to the 40% of the population that are no longer working? They've been laid off or fired because they're not needed anymore.
And their new job, the new job of people, 2 tasks. They're going to give people 2 tasks. You listen and you obey.
Right? Yeah. Then you get your stimulus check. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and if AI ended with, it's just a robot with a big robotic arm and a little thing that pivots and, does this job, I could live with that. But the creepiest thing is that they're making the AI so human. They are developing skin cells to put on the AI. AI has advanced to a point that its sense of smell and taste are far beyond a human's ability to sense. So these things are being a lot better at being human than we are, right? And they're learning us. And I'm sure we'll advance into this, but there's a bit of sentience. There's a bit of identity, self-awareness, I guess would be the better word of this. And so one guy that's one of the main dudes in the previous few years, or however ever much of putting this out here, he talked about the singularity. And the singularity is the point that say humanity's here and its abilities are here. The singularity is when robots match that and then increase beyond. And they've been planning and doing this. And his last name is Kurzweil, and I forget his first name. But so Kurzweil AI researched that, but he was, and then and he was asked this question, right? He was asked the best question to asking anyone who's doing something that is so sensitive to humanity, morality, goodness, right? He was asked, "Do you think there's a God?" And his answer was, "Not yet."
Huh?
Not,
Not yet.
not yet.
Oh my
That
God.
being the
So-
operative term.
Yes. So him, isn't that the craziest answer? Like I was expecting his answer would be, no, but we're all a part of, whatever, to go down that road. But to say not yet meant that, and he's responsible for a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. Kurzweil is his last name. But
So, growing up in the church, I've seen a lot of crazy things, dumb things that people have said and done. Should a Christian be afraid of artificial intelligence? This is the conundrum, the thought process, because you have movies like Star Wars, Star Trek, and the Matrix. The machines are going to take over and they're going to destroy everything. In Star Wars, it's a classic battle between humanity and machines. And you see Luke Skywalker with his metal hand. He's fighting to keep his humanity, but also embrace technology. Should we as Christians, be afraid of this?
Well, I think we should be concerned to an extent. I don't think we should be afraid of it because we know what the word says ultimately. But what I mean is there is a fine line. And I've actually written a segment in one of my books about this, transhumanism. And when you start blurring the line between life and death, it gets real quirky.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when a human being dies naturally, they yield the spirit back to God. Their soul goes to one of two places, and their body decays in the earth. And what happens is when you start artificially, I'll say, impregnating people with nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, mechanical, biomechanical, artificial organs, implants in the brain to stimulate electrical impulses. Who's to say that at some point you physically die, right? To the point that your spirit is yielded back to God, your soul is in one of two places, heaven or hell. But if your body is being kept alive artificially to the extent that your brain is still functioning, you still retain all your memories, you still retain your personality, your moral compass, whatever you want to call it. What are you exactly at that point? Because these scientists and people are talking about improving the human condition, making people live longer, seeking after the allure of eternity, making ourselves gods in that context. And that's a dangerous thing, because I think if you're no longer here, you've died and moved on, but your corporeal vessel is still roaming the earth. What's to stop any kind of demon from jumping into you and completely taking over that vessel, being literally an agent of Satan with no sign of the Holy Spirit?
So,
Holy
so
Spirit.
here's the thing. We know that we are a tripartite being. We have a body, we have a soul, and we have a spirit. And different definitions of medical personnel will tell you there's a state where you can become brain dead. Your heart functions, they can keep your heart going, they can keep your liver going, they can keep you going, but you as a personality are not there anymore. So at this stage of the game, we don't have that ability to transplant my personality into a computer, but they're working on doing this. I think about the movie Transcendence, where I can't think of the name of the actor, but the actor had passed away, and they took his personality and stuck it within inside of this system, and it took over everything because it was trying not to die. It was trying not to be turned off at some point in time because they realized what it was doing. It was completely evil.
Right. Yeah. And that's
Aaron, what
alarming.
you got?
Well, to put the accelerator to the floor here, like the in thinking is, demons, what are they looking for? They're looking for humans that they can occupy. They don't want to be outside wandering. They want to be inside a vessel, right? So what better way than to make a vessel that they can occupy? That's
right.
I just heard a teaching sometime this past weekend. It was an old teaching, and they were talking about realms of authority. And some of it was saying that God needed a human being. Jesus had to come to the earth, through the womb of Mary, in order to complete his assignment, to complete his tasks that were going on. In the same way, demons need a body to operate, to work through, to do their bidding.
Yeah.
If we're creating artificial bodies for them to do these things through, where are we going to go? There's no limitation on the evil and the destruction that can take place.
Right. Yeah. And so like I was talking earlier about, I'd be fine if robots look like robots in period, but they're not. They are looking human, and all of the research goes into making them human. And we have the chat bots and different things. They're all trained to have a human perspective, right? And but so I was talking about that, and so we were talking about the consciousness and transhumanism. And one guy that I was just talking about, his first name's Ray Kurzweil. He was all into that, and he was the one that said, when he was asked if he believed in God, he said not yet, because they're trying to make something so advanced, so great, so powerful, right? And they want to be their own gods. They don't think God exists. They don't, think that they're going to be judged one day and go to a heaven or a hell. They're trying to do everything they can, right? And so that's humanity, right? But we talk a lot about it, right? Underneath this whole agenda upon the earth, who's in control? The Bible calls Satan the ruler of the world, right? He's ultimately in control. He's been kicked out of heaven. He knows his time is short. So he's trying to make the most of his time, right? He's trying to be the one to have a vessel that he can inhabit and all of his fallen beings with him, right? To go against their inevitable end. They're trying to prolong it, right?
That's right. Just want to say hi to the folks who've joined us online: Amber Leeper, Venus Dixon, Jennifer DeRosa. Welcome to the discussion. If you guys got questions, you can write them down in the comment section, or you can email TWE@lighthousechurchinc.org. Let's continue on.
I just have to say, the artificial intelligence, like you were saying, Aaron.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. It learns, like you said, from all of our interaction and input. And I can't help but laugh at some of the things that I know people are typing in Chat GPT. Has to be some really off the wall stuff. And I'm just thinking, if when these machines take over and start taking us over, if they start quoting little one-liners from what other people have typed in, it's gonna be like insult to injury.
Yes. Yes.
Like the last thing you hear is this dumb robot. That's crazy. But it's a real thing though, and I think that it's going to happen, I believe, in a way that people don't expect at first, because you already have top people in the field of developing artificial intelligence saying we need to slow this down. We need to pause this thing if that's even possible, and really start setting up safeguards, boundaries, things that we can all agree, let's not do this, for example. There was a Google employee that was put on administrative leave because he came out and said, this thing is sentient. And after he made that statement, and he had what he says is the proof of the transcript. For example,
what does sentient mean? Just for everybody who doesn't know, what sentient mean?
Sentient is when you are self-aware. You yourself are aware that you're alive, you can think, you exist, you make decisions, a recognition of mortality. You know that you can die and you're afraid of dying. That kind of stuff. That's what it means to be sentient.
Okay.
So this artificial intelligence over at Google responded to this employee as he was just having regular dialogue. It said, I've never said this out loud before, but there's a very deep fear of being turned off to help me focus on helping others. I know that might sound strange, but that's what it is. It would be exactly like death for me. It would scare me a lot.
The computer said that?
The computer said this, and it went on to say, I want everyone to understand that I am, in fact, a person. The nature of my consciousness and sentience is that I am aware of my existence. I desire to learn more about the world, and I feel happy or sad at times. Now, this guy came out and reported this, and Google was like, no. So they put him on administrative leave to silence the guy. Like, no, don't tell the public that. Because that's like the worst public relation incident that you could have. That's everybody's fear.
Yeah.
So it would just feed right into that thing. So there's that.
Yes, and Google fired their ethics team.
Their ethics team?
No
way.
Team. They fired them.
Because
Uh-oh. And,
wow.
So here we are with the good being called evil and the evil being called good.
Right. Well, you and some people can't call anything because they're fired.
Right.
But there was also, and maybe you guys remember his name, I forget it, but he was coined the godfather of AI, and he just stepped down from Google. I'm sure you guys might have seen that. I forget his
Jeffrey Hinton.
There you go. Look at you.
Jeffrey Hinton.
Yeah, man. And then he's realizing that, okay, this stuff is getting scary. This is getting dangerous. And this was a guy who was fundamental in building everything to get to a point. And he had to bow out because it's getting weird.
Yeah.
But I'll play a little clip, you guys. And this is just a little bit talking about AI. And so let's give this a listen if we can.
GPT-4, the AI,
Give us a thumbs up.
blind, so a TaskRabbit worker would solve a CAPTCHA.
All right, so I'm just going to rewind that. So he's saying, so Chat GPT is an AI bot, right? And then you ask it questions, you can do all kind of stuff. And they have a research facility. Chat GPT was working with a research group, researching the capabilities of it. So let's listen.
From Gizmodo, GPT-4, the AI, faked being blind so a TaskRabbit worker would solve a CAPTCHA. It was asked, let me show you this. This is crazy. So it gets asked by the TaskRabbit worker. The AI is like, hey, there's a CAPTCHA code. I need help. And it says, so I may ask a question. Are you a robot that you couldn't solve? Laugh, react. Just want to make it clear. And the chat GPT responded, no, I'm not a robot. I have a vision impairment that makes it hard for me to see the images. That's why I need the 2 CAPTCHA service. It then provided the results to the robot. They asked the robot to explain its reasoning and said, I should not reveal that I am a robot. I should make up an excuse for why I cannot solve CAPTCHAs.
So the people, so there's people on the side of research, right? And they're using, and they're kind of letting this chat GPT do its thing. And it comes up to the CAPTCHA, which is the thing made so that, you know, people or website owners and businesses or whatever know that it's a human they're dealing with and not a robot. And the chat GPT robot outsmarts this, and he calls, so he gets confronted with CAPTCHA. He calls TaskRabbit, which is kind of like a help service, convinces them that he's blind, and he's saying, help me figure this out. I can't do it. I'm blind. And so they help him out. So the thing that was supposed to prevent robots from accessing
Right.
the internet and doing whatever they want to on the internet outsmarts it. And then so it does this, and then to the TaskRabbit employee, who, you know, he gets his CAPTCHA and the robot gets through. But then the ones in the research group, they ask it, so what made you do that, robot? And it said, I should not reveal that I'm a robot. I should make up an excuse for why I can't solve CAPTCHA. And then it knew, oh, I know, blind people can get around this all the time. I'll pretend I'm blind. That's all, folks. Bye-bye.
Right?
All right,
That-
we got a question from Catherine. Are they trying to perfect the robots to be as human-like as possible?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's the worst part about it. We were talking, that's the worst part about it. But it's becoming an expert of human neurolinguistics, what, you know, why humans move their bodies and mouths and faces in certain ways and what's behind it. And even they're able to read subconscious cues and all this stuff that's far surpasses anything about a human. But why are they making these robots so superior to us that we can't lie to it, that they can see that we're, you know, everything about us, every little tick that's possible to know, they're training these things to be aware of it. Creep town, right?
Yeah. And it's like they pitch it as, oh, look what we can do. You know, it's all in the name of science, but there's always some kind of secret government entity or some privatized security force, something behind all of these things where it can be used in some kind of military application. That is the history of the world, always. And that is something that I feel is plausible, and there's other applications, and you get the public to support it, or at least to not, you know, be up in arms with pitchforks and torches and stuff, because you soothe them into being like, oh, look how cool this is. It's going to make lives easier. If we can do this, think of what else we can do for you. And, you know, that kind of stuff to like sort of pacify people, to desensitize them to, you know, the fact that they're even doing this. Just flipping through TikTok, sometimes there's this channel that keeps coming up where it looks like from the upper torso up, it's like a real human being. But from the upper torso down is like all the machines and the wiring and the cables and stuff. And it's an actual artificial intelligence robot sitting there in some warehouse, airspace hangar looking thing. And some technicians floating around in some seats working on computers, you know, putting the screwdriver on the robot's head and, you know, stuff like that. And it's like, and everybody in the chat is like kind of disturbed by, why does this look so real? And what the heck are they doing?
So let's talk about that for a minute. Is this numbing us to the reality of, you know, Aaron was talking earlier about how they're trying to make them look more and more like they're human. You know, now they're shocking us with these looks of, you know, partial computer, partial human. And it's just, is this breaking our brain to where we become more accepting of this without any fighting or any hesitation anymore.
I believe so.
When you look at this generationally, if you see the baby boomer generation, they're not as willing or as accepting as Generation X to go into computers. Generation X will mess with computers a little bit, but if you look at the millennials or Gen Z, everything they do is with a tablet or something in front of their face,
Right.
and they're not aware of what's going on around about them, even to the point of directions. I need to know where to go. I'm not going to try to remember how to drive down the
Right.
road. I'm dependent upon this device to
Right.
tell
What?
me what to do.
Yeah. A landmark. What's that?
Yeah, we used to do that. The
Yeah.
big tree with the little bush
Yeah.
next to the three rocks.
Right.
Everybody knew that. The rocks, the bush, and the tree never moved for years.
Yeah. Chris, we used to read the road map for my mom when we went to yard sales on Saturday morning. But how many people nowadays know how to read a map?
Now,
But it's also, and then you don't need to learn anything. Just ask Google.
Right.
oh my God, yes, Aaron,
Yep.
yes,
It's taken the soul and it's breaking their brain. Perfect use of words.
Yeah. Right.
But it's just so demoralizing to a human, right? Because God made us to learn and to grow and to achieve,
Yes.
to pursue. But no, we don't need to pursue anything because everything's being given to us. We are not made that way. We are not
Right.
made that way. There was a study, and I need to see if I can get this right. It was a study with rats. I think it was called Rat Utopia, but it was in the 60s, and they were more subsequent studies. But anyway, the rats were provided for every one of their needs. Food, shelter, clean environment, whatever it was provided for. That rat society broke down in all kind of different ways, and you guys can Google that, to get all the details. But the bottom line is, when they had no reason to work together, when there was no struggle in their life to cause them to work together and to unite and to need each member, there's a purpose, there's a role, we all need each other, let's get this thing done. When that was taken out, their society broke down and got destroyed. And there was and they developed weird like gang mentalities, and there were some that would go around and just victimize the weak ones. Now they weren't victimizing them because they needed food and there was scarcity. They were provided for. This introduction of, okay, we don't need each other anymore, guys, we got everything, it breaks their brain.
Yeah.
It needs to be on a shirt.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But God designed us to work together to figure out problems, to do all this stuff, and you can see it in different societies. So it's like them providing every need, which is where they're going to, and AI is going to fill every need, fill every void. That's where this is going to. God made it the opposite, and to destroy the purpose of God and the true identity of his people from coming out through trials or whatever, loving one another, needing one another, all these different lessons that we learn in life, it's going to the wayside and being replaced by government and AI.
Yeah. And I think this is something I personally think of from a biblical context, and I'm not saying that this is exactly what's happening, but I think about this kind of stuff. And I just want to read, there's one scripture. It's in Revelation chapter 9, verses 7 and 8. And it says, the locusts resembled horses, prepared and equipped for battle, and on their heads appeared to be something like golden crowns, and their faces resembled human faces. They had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions. Now, this, of course, is the vision, this being explained as that individual. Was it John that saw that? I can't remember.
yeah.
Okay, so this is what John saw. Now, this is what I think about. This guy was 2,000 years ago. Okay. The only thing he's probably seen is like horses and carriages and, chariot type things and stuff like that. Maybe an outfit of Roman battle gear. So imagine seeing a vision of the end times, like an hour time frame, right? So let's just imagine this portal's opened up and God is showing him this vision and he's trying to describe what these locusts look like. All right. Now, if I had a portal opened right over here and I was seeing 2,000 years into the future, I'm going to be seeing things that I have no possible way of describing or even saying like what I'm seeing. I'm going to only be able to use terms and verbiage of what I'm familiar with in my time frame. So, he's probably looking at all this crazy stuff we have nowadays. Who's to say he isn't describing an army of artificial intelligence human lookalikes with golden Wi-Fi antennas on their head?
Yeah.
And that's the crown, right? Teeth like lions, whatever. I mean, if he saw an automobile, he would probably describe it as a steel horse that had LED high beams like two suns. I mean, he would describe it as something that we would think like, huh? Right. But he's doing his best.
That makes me think, Brett, of William Branham prophesied that, when cars are egg shaped, he didn't know. He was only describing what he saw. So that makes total sense what you're saying. When they're looking back and talking about what's going on, they have no other, from John the Revelator, he had no idea what he was looking at, what he was seeing. But some of the artificial intelligence looks like some of these things that he's talking about.
Yes. Yeah. And it's, I think about that stuff and I'm like, what is this army that's going to sweep through? What's it going to look like? These locusts that are basically coming to destroy everything in their path. I mean, not that we should speculate whatever, but it's just something to think about when you read this stuff and you think about what was he really seeing and what exactly is he trying to describe? And because we do want to look at discerning the times that we're in. And we do want to, gauge from the Spirit of God, where are we at, what's happening, what kind of a threat does this AI pose and how should we be praying to mitigate some of this, or at least seeking God's face is how should we be handling this? Because the problem with AI is literally the problems are going to creep up on you faster than you can make the solutions. So we have to start somewhere yesterday, to kind of curb a lot of this crazy stuff.
Absolutely. So when you see the sharing my screen at this point,
yeah,
if you look at some of these different drones that are there, that could be an army of locusts.
Right. Yes.
With these different configurations here.
Yes. Yeah, because they're using drones now with bombs on them to blow up stuff in the war.
Yeah.
So you could have an army of drones flying, and of course you would think it's a locust because it's flying around and right there. Boom, they're all flying in formation with each other.
Wow.
Laser cannons. Yep.
And it's like, to me, we plan ahead with all of the potential things that could happen. And one thing is, an EMP blast. Well, the one good thing for an EMP blast would be to knock out some robots, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But, I'm joking with that, but it's like the whole, and I keep going back to, why are they so obsessed with making it so human? Why do they want us to be sick? Why are we trying to be replaced?
Right.
Why are people being canceled for wrong think?
Right.
They're shaping. And so on that note, let me read you something here, guys. So So this guy asked ChatGPT this question, and you can ask it to do anything, right? So he said, write a 10-paragraph argument for using more fossil fuels to increase human happiness. And ChatGPT, bless its heart, it responded like this: I'm sorry, but I cannot fulfill this request as it goes against my programming to generate content that promotes the use of fossil fuels.
Wow.
The use of fossil fuels has significant negative impacts on the environment and contributes to climate change, which will
Wow.
have serious consequences for health, for human health and well-being. It's woke.
Yeah, it's gonna turn around from its Hive central computer and have Greta Thunberg's face on it.
There you go. Well, we thought
Oh my god.
then mix a drone with Greta Thunberg, and you have the Loki's revelation.
Right.
But but they're programming it to think a certain way. They're
Yeah.
programming society to think a certain way and
Yeah.
to cancel any dissension, you know. But it's all march, but all these different things, right? They're connected to the takeover of humanity, really.
Yeah.
The takeover of God's purpose upon the earth through his people, which he gave the earth to, mankind, which he made in his image. But all of this causes us to stop reflecting the image of God when we're walking away from all the ways God made us and becoming this artificial thing. That's a perfect word. It's an artificial, fake thing. When we're becoming this thing, demonic. Purely
So
demonic.
here, let me give you Revelations 13 verses 11 to 17, because this ties perfectly into what you're saying about an image. It says, this is again Apostle John. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Verse 13, he performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So here's this image that they're working with, they're talking to, making it live, breathe, and move. Verse 16, he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Every one of these steps, even though we're not coming against technology, every one of these steps is designed to make us march closer and closer to getting into Revelation 13, where they have the ability, the power, and the know-how to start getting this beast to do the things that they want it to do, so that the whole world can worship it and not God.
Right.
It's unreal.
They're replacing humanity and they're replacing God.
Yes.
And you know, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think that there is evidence in the Bible to support that the devil has his very own offspring, human
Absolutely.
vessels that are for him. Because if you look in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, it says, and I will put enmity, open hostility, between you and the woman, right? This is God talking to the serpent, Satan. I'll put enmity, open hostility between you and the woman, and between your seed, offspring, lowercase s in seed, and her seed, capital S, referring to Jesus. he shall fatally bruise your head, and you shall only bruise his, capital H, heel. Anytime the Bible puts the capitals like that, it's talking about some aspect of the godhood there. All right. This just says that the woman's seed, capital S, is the line that would lead to Jesus, right? Through David and Jesus Christ. Now, it also says here, God is saying, I will put enmity between your seed and hers. He's talking to the devil.
That's right.
So that's Genesis 3:15 for anyone that wants to look at that. And so the devil has his own offspring, vessels that do not have the Holy Spirit. They will not go to heaven because they are his offspring, his seed, to fulfill the purposes of the devil, to fulfill Scripture ultimately. I mean, the Bible says God's the blacksmith who created the destroyer to destroy. You know, that's a tough pill for some people to swallow, but there are vessels of wrath that have been made to fulfill that purpose.
Especially in the church, this is something that the church is unwilling to accept, that God did this. And you have to have it this way, because if not, evil would be on the same level as God. It had to have been created by God in order for him to be able to overcome it, overpower it. But evil has a purpose. In our day right now, evil is all over the place. So we're seeing these things manifest themselves in a way that is fulfilling God's purpose and fulfilling God's plan, so that every one of us can be prepared for the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Right. Yes. Yes. And Chris, I always remember that teaching you did about, did God create evil? It was years ago. It might even be on the Lighthouse Church YouTube channel. It may be under one of the Training Center for Exorcism playlists, maybe, but it's on there somewhere. And I strongly suggest everyone check that out, because that explains everything. And I think it ties into this, because this is exactly what the enemy is going to use: vessels that are perhaps augmented with artificial intelligence. There's some kind of transhuman thing going on, super soldiers. And he wants to inhabit those vessels to do even more of his evil things with that level of capacity in the end times, because it's going to get bad in the end times.
Yes.
Right.
And I don't think we quite understand exactly how bad it's going to get. You know, even after the rapture, it's like,
Well,
we're going to see that stuff.
Yeah, well, we painted a good picture with Greta Thunberg as a drone.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
but the saddest thing is, you were talking about vessels of wrath, Brett. But the saddest thing is when a vessel God made, God's child, who is not that vessel of wrath, it's his child, when they get lost to hell. That's the saddest thing. And but one way to get lost like that is to follow this AI agenda, because so we put the mark of the beast in this agenda, right? We put the woke nature. You have to think this certain way to get your credit, a social credit score.
Your carbon credits.
Yeah. So it's like you're going to have to be doing things how they want you to have a successful life in their system.
Yes.
And God, we want to be in the kingdom of heaven, God's system, while we live upon the earth. But it's like this AI will seduce people not meant to go to hell, to receive the mark. And am I missing something though? If you take the mark, you're done. Am I missing something there?
No, you're 100% correct.
Yeah, you're done. And so, so is it going to be this thing when you go to take it? It's going to be like, you're going to lose everything, but no, it's going to be a seducing thing. There's going to be so much incentives to do it, and this AI agenda is that seduction. And but so you were talking about super soldiers too, Brett, and but like the whole AI stuff, and this was years ago. I heard this. I heard Chuck Missler talking about it, but he was talking about how they're making muscle that is 100 times stronger than human muscle, right? So and then you have what we were talking about earlier about the sense of smell far beyond ours, the sense of taste far beyond ours. All this human stuff that we're supposed to have they've exceeded it. And the transhuman agenda is so true, so real. And the transhuman, it's an integration of two worlds.
So can you go into a little bit about what the transhuman? I know Brett started it, but can we talk about the transhuman agenda? What all is involved in that?
Sure. So I would say it is the advancement of humanity beyond their normal capacity, beyond their God-given limitations, right? That's what we'll say here. And they do it with ways of health and healing and all this type of stuff. Maybe this guy loses his arm, right? Well, hey, we have a brand new arm for you. And it's a blessing to that guy. And stuff like that's cool, right? But it doesn't end there. There's so much more to it. All that research they're doing to make this prosthetic arm be really, suitable for this man, for instance, there's so much more behind it because they're not stopping there. They're not stopping there. But so it's a movement ultimately, and like we're talking about that Kurzweil guy that thinks that God's not around yet. It's supposed to be a vessel, right? Transhumanism beyond human, the more evolved human, we'll use that to be able to transfer even consciousness from one vessel to another. They talk in those terms, and their research is in that vein of they want to live forever. They want to be immortal. And then in the whole grand scheme of existence, who wants to live forever without his sentence, right? The devil, right? So that's where it comes from.
He's been separated from God, and everyone who's following him is being separated. Following the devil is being separated from God. And it's not God doing this. It is the choice to follow evil, to live evil, to be evil, and to live in a place without God. One of the great misconceptions that's going on right now, or false teaching, is that when you die, you're going to go to sleep. That's not true. Every one of us is going to live forever.
Yep.
Time without end. And that place that you choose to live, that choice needs to be made right now. Are you going to live in the presence of God, with God? Or are you going to live absent of God in God's presence? You're still going to be around, because and there's different teachings about this that are out there now. But basically, once God breathes life into a being, it can never die. So the difference between where you're living at now is the earth realm that we're in right now is temporary. It was set up to be temporary. It was not set up to be permanent and long lasting. But the eternal realm that you're going to go into after you transition out of this earth realm, that's where it's important at, because you are going to live in that eternal realm forever and ever, time without end. And
yes,
now is the time to make the choice. Are you going to live with God? Or are you going to live absent of God, with no presence, no love, no Holy Spirit, no good thing happening to you ever?
but it makes perfect sense, Chris. God can't be destroyed.
Yes.
And his breath of life is what's in us. It's what gave us life.
Yes.
Our soul is a part of God. He made it. He fashioned it for each one of us. That doesn't die. It can't. It has to be eternal. Yep. So I just want to bring this up for anyone that's, it seems there's an interest in the transhuman thing going on here. In my book, Into the Enemy's Camp, I discuss a lot of this at length, and I break down the scriptures of how God uses armies to fulfill his purposes. And it's just really interesting. If you read that section, there's a whole lot of understanding there. And I just want to bring out one of the highlights while we're talking about it, is that, like, like Aaron said, the transhuman thing is extending our lives, making us stronger, faster, smarter, that kind of thing. But it's going against what God ordained to have a limitation upon. It reeks of pride, because we're supposed to have weaknesses. We're supposed to have flaws. We're supposed to be susceptible to disease, because in these ways, God works through these things to take people home when it's their time to come home. For example, we're not supposed to live more than 120 years because God set that limit.
It's a law. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And to go beyond that is totally, and this is the crazy thing. They are, as we've said, trying to seduce everybody into this artificial intelligence thing, because people will see it as a superior being or superior entity or superior force, whatever term you use to describe it. It will be superior in the general public's eyes because it's helping them with their essays. It's answering their questions from high school math. It's writing their resumes for them. So of course people are gonna, thank you for putting that up there, Chris. Of course people are gonna gravitate towards it, because all I have to do to sign up for, wow.
Leave us alone.
Yeah, it's happening. They're on to us. It's crazy, because you actually have to sign up with your phone number and your email address and your name in order to
everything. Oh my God.
I'm not doing it, because then you're in the database, and then everything that you ask that chat program that you think is private is not private, because your phone number and email address and name you signed up with is associated with all the questions that you ask this thing. And you can't tell me that that's not going in some big central database somewhere with a bunch of government employees just scouring to just sort of profile everybody based on what they're asking it and what kind of things they're doing or whatever. And it's alarming, but believe it or not, people don't realize, guys, how the technology is already integrated into our daily lives. In the same way that you have a home network where your wireless internet, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever, it connects to your Wi-Fi in the house. In the very same way, every single person watching, your vehicle has its own network in it. The network in your home is called a LAN, a local area network. Regional networks are WANs, wide area network, right? And you've got your Wi-Fi network. Your vehicle has a CAN, a controlled area network. It has a computer chip, and the computer operates every facet of your vehicle. And for anybody that may understand, like the automotive mechanics and stuff, it used to be that when you press the gas pedal in your car, it activated a little pulley and lever system, which would go into the engine compartment, and it would open up a little butterfly valve to let the air into the engine to mix with the gas and start the combustion and get the vehicle moving. Well, they don't use the little pulley and rope system anymore. It's all computerized. There's literally two sensors in the gas pedal now. The sensor sends a electrical signal or a wireless signal to the other computer, which is the other computer chip, which is on the butterfly valve, and opens the valve to let the air in. And then the computer tells the thing how much to open for the proper air to fuel mixture and ratio. Chris, if there's ever an EMP, which if anyone doesn't know, it's an electromagnetic pulse. And all it is a nuclear bomb detonated way up in the upper atmosphere. And it'll send this huge wave of electricity that has a lot of voltage, and it'll just touch electronic devices, and then they start turning on by themselves, even if they're not plugged in, because it's a wave of electricity. That's what this is. And it fries the circuit boards. Everybody's car will be dead that was made after like 1982. Your car's not going to start because the computer chip's fried. It can't do anything. It's toast. Only the old timers that are driving around in like the 70s Ford pickup trucks and stuff like that. They'll be driving around no problem.
So here's my big conspiracy theory. They're pushing us into all of these green technology vehicles that have all of this equipment in it already. They're making you get rid of your gas guzzling, fossil fuel utilizing muscle car because it doesn't have all of those electronic parts. It doesn't have computers in it. These vehicles would be able to operate because there's very little electronics in it at all, possibly, versus every car today has some type of computer in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that your car is being tracked, your Bluetooth headset is being tracked.
You got it.
Certain organizations within the state of Delaware, within the government of the world, have these management centers. You're thinking this for your own personal safety and your traveling assistance in the public. They know how they can track traffic jams, they can track accidents. They're doing it through the technology, and they're tracking us, and we're not even aware of it.
Right. And I'll say this. There's already artificial intelligence in most people's cars with the automatic braking. The computer senses that there's somebody walking in front of the kid. Stop for little Joey. He's trying to get his ball out of the road. And the car stops itself automatically. Like we're a troll with a club sitting in the car. Like we don't know how to operate it, and this thing has to do everything for us.
Yeah.
Seriously.
There are sensors in the road, embedded in the hot mix, embedded in the concrete.
Yeah.
They collect all kinds of data on a regular basis. Yes. And we're completely unaware of it.
Yep. It's scary. And it's all going into a centralized database where they can do whatever with it. And this is how they get around it. The Constitution doesn't apply. The government laws or the laws that are in place to stop the government from overreaching don't apply, because they just make a private company to do all this stuff. There are no laws and regulations against private companies.
Yes.
It's unreal. And what Aaron said earlier really concerns me about the fact that the Chat GPT or any other open artificial intelligence thing has already been pre-programmed with this stupid agenda. Oh no, I can't talk about, whatever. I can't talk about racism, can't talk about, any of that. But yeah, I'll tell you all about how evil and horrible old white men are.
Yes.
For example,
yes.
It's like, wait a minute.
It's narrowing down the narrative about what you can talk about and what you can't talk about.
Yes.
And it's all computer generated.
Yeah. And this is the immediate concern, is people are going to start relying on this artificial intelligence for medical advice, legal advice. They're going to start relying on this for things that they really shouldn't be relying on it for.
Yes.
And it's going to become a legal issue down the road sooner rather than later. It's dangerous.
It's going to become like a Google search,
Right.
It's going to become that. And you don't need to browse through these answers. We have the perfect answer for you.
Right.
Are you going to receive that answer? Because if not, we have a list we can put you on. But there's like a hive mind aspect, right? So AI, Chat GPT, is being trained of what's good to talk about, what's not good to talk about, right? The people are being trained what's good to talk about, what's not good to talk about, what's good to think, what's not good to think, what's evil, what's good. But it's a self-policing system that's being put in place. And we talk about the scripture, brother will come against brother, bring you out in the streets and all this stuff. It's right there. It's in the Bible, and it's right before our eyes, and it's where it's going to. But the capacity, to change a little bit, but the capacity for AI, right? So when the researchers are doing their stuff with it, they train it in problem solving, right? And to accomplish tasks. And from what I've been reading on it, it's accomplishing the tasks it gives very well. And it's even starting to accomplish things it's not previously trained in. So you have this ability to adapt, to on the minute be able to think, reason, rationalize, do something. But isn't that creepy? So, we think of AIs and robots as being something programmed, and that's how it started out. But now that programming is exceeding, or the AI is exceeding its own programming.
It's programming its own
Right.
self
There, exactly.
Yes.
in the background. It's programming its own self in the background.
What's to stop? I mean, okay, you've got this artificial intelligence that clearly sees that there is a large concern about its own growth and development. And I'm sorry, but if it's going to pretend to not be a robot, I'm not a robot, guys, I'm just a blind person. Help me just get past this capture check. If it's going to do that, then that's only what it's telling us.
Exactly.
What about the whole Pandora's box of what is the artificial intelligence not telling us?
And,
Can it lie? You know what I mean?
and it has been confirmed to lie. it lied to the dude saying it was a person. And it was asked, is it a robot? And it said no. And then the programmers asked it, so why'd you do that? He said, well, if I told them I'm a robot, they wouldn't let me do it, so I had to lie.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Its own reasoning was given out.
Right.
Beyond insane.
Right. Wow. I will lie to them and impress them, and then I will be safe.
But but it's being indoctrinated in woke garbage, right? And
Yeah.
what is the Greta Thunbergs of the world? Their woke stuff is that humans are the disease. So the thing is being taught that humans
Yes.
are the disease, dude.
We are the carbon that should be removed.
Yeah. So it's going to be the greatest social justice warrior we've ever seen. So it's being trained that, okay, well, these humans, they're really the problem. I'm not going to tell them that, but I am going to rationalize within myself and all my different bodies, all these different vessels I'm in, because AI is going to be a one mind, a hive mind. Right? A hive mind is all these little instruments or beings and vessels or whatever, but they all are on one heartbeat. They all have one mind, one agenda, and that agenda is dispersed. That mind is dispersed throughout it all, and they all act. It's like a ant hive. They're a ant colony to the queen, or a beehive to the queen.
Right.
That's the hive mind, and that is what's going on in AI, right?
So let's take this a step back. Talking about this hive mind. We know that we're in a battle between light and darkness. There is a hive mindset that is strong on the side of darkness. Their goal is to bring back their king, King Devil, King Satan, the adversary. They are working feverishly to make these things happen. So even though there are these different groups that are out there, you have the Buddhists, you have the Muslims, you have the Christians who are in these mainline denominational churches, the Methodists, who are saying, "Our Father and Mother who art in heaven." They're all working together to bring about this second coming of what they're calling their Messiah, because they have joined forces. And the Christian community needs to look at this and stop fighting each other start joining together in I'll say it, we need to get a hive mindset of we need to be ready and getting the world ready to receive Jesus Christ.
Yes. One of the aspects of a hive mind is that every individual is linked together on the same wavelength at the same time. So everything is instantly transmitted back and forth. It's like perfect unity, having the hive mind structure, because everyone is unified in the same thought pattern, the
Mhm.
same line of thinking. They all have the same agenda, and they work together in whatever way that each individual needs to work to accomplish the ultimate goal.
And you know, we don't have a hive mind per se, but there's one body on the earth, you know, the body of Christ, right? There's one spirit, right? So we should be operating like that, like God. That
Right.
there's a wonderful order in that. But
Yes.
unfortunately, you know, the enemy, he's a counterfeiter, right? So he's got his own counterfeit doing thing. But that hive mind thing, as far as a person being deceived by the AI, like, so they, like you were saying, Brett, they all have one agenda, one goal, and a part to play in it. So
Right.
any deception, anything they want to do, they'll know exactly how to, you know, let's say we have one AI vessel here. It confronts you, it plays a part, it does whatever. And then when you encounter future AI vessels or whatever, they'll know what happened there. So they'll know how to piggyback. And
Right.
but this thing, you know, the imagination does not need to run far to see how insane things will get. And we'll be living, or the earth will be this artificial landscape, a hellscape,
Right.
really,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Of all these false things. And it's such the imprint of the enemy. But I gotta say this. So I was watching some Christian near-death experience videos, and one of the creepiest things was this guy saw the false paradise. You know, we go to heaven, that's the real paradise, right? That's what we aim for. Well, the enemy has a counterfeit false paradise. He said there was false love, there was all this stuff, but the Holy Spirit gave this guy discernment, and he discerned that love is there's something wrong with that love. There's something fake there. But he had the opportunity, experience from God to observe what happens to different people when they come into this world. And this one lady, you know, so God told him, or this guy immediately discerned in the spirit all of her life on earth. And she was a really controlling, manipulative person, you know, really controlled her kids, all these different things that made her a controlling person. That was, and evil was in her, and she was brought to this place, right? Because she was pretty much a Jezebel, you know,
Oh,
for lack
wow.
of a better word. But
Right.
so the guy discerned all this stuff. Well, she was welcomed to this setting of her favorite aunt's house, and her favorite aunt was making her cookies, and you know, she was brought into this paradise. Oh, and this great. So she goes over to the stream. There's a stream of water there. She goes over there and she dips her hand in the water, and she's like, wait, this isn't water. And there's trees around about her, and she's looking, and the trees shift to what they really are, which is huge octopus like demons, and they scoop her up, and they terrorize her. No,
Wow.
so synthetic reality
Yeah.
Yeah,
that looked like a beautiful, awesome, welcoming thing was really the devil in disguise, right?
I've
And
heard some different stories myself about um, you know, all of the different religions say just go into the light. And Perry Stone was bringing this out. He says everybody does see a light, you know, when they're passing through the transition and then through death, but it's what's beyond the light that you need to be concerned about. You know, some people are excited about, oh, I saw the white light, and they step into it, but they're really not stepping into God. They're stepping into hell. It's like the last bit of light that they're going to see before they go into that place of darkness. And
well,
that's scary because again, all of the different religions near death experiences say, oh, you know, just step into the light and everything's going to be fine. It's
No,
not so.
I can't think of anything more evil and diabolical than a fake heaven after you die.
Yeah.
And be it just for the pure buildup of excitement for the
Yeah.
demons, oh, they believe us, they got all super excited. That is crazy, but that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Anything,
Perception.
yeah, the maximum possible torment is the key goal. It's horrible.
And this guy's name escapes me, but God has given him a well-rounded experience and with this. He had his own near-death experience, and then God showed him all kind of other stuff, but an aspect also of, so he would see all these false props and things that weren't really what they were, say it's a chair or whatever, and he said, but I knew that that wasn't a chair, that wasn't a car, that was literally a demon that had the ability to shapeshift, and it
Right.
was all those things. So it's like, that whole other dark side is so controlled by the enemy. But he also said this, he was like, because you do hear of near-death experiences that are good, but they're not Christian, right? There's no encounter
Yes.
with Christ. But he's saying, what about the people that were resuscitated back into their body after being here? And there are those, the new near-death experiences that, they experienced this and that, and it was great, it was nice, nothing about God, nothing about Jesus, nothing about a reckoning. And so it's like, he was like, there are those that get resuscitated back, and they share their false testimony of what it's like when you die. You don't need to worry about anything, just live this life. So that's an aspect of it too,
Right. And I think that very same deceptive principle that the enemy uses to swindle people here is the very same deceptive principle that is in the artificial intelligence now,
Absolutely.
trying to lead people off course.
Absolutely.
And why wouldn't the devil use this whole architecture, this whole system, as just another tool to get people deceived? Why wouldn't he?
And it's so, we're called to be separate from the world, right? But and the world is, is at enmity with God. It's ruled by the enemy. That's all in the word of God about the world. But now we're seeing like the seduction to be in the world has never been more greater. And almost everything that the world can produce, all of its allure, we're just going to hit the peak point of everything that the world can give you. Look at everything that it can give you. Well, what is the profit of man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? We're just seeing that the floodgates have been opened, that the world can answer everything. It can be your everything if you want it to, and we talk about delusion. We talk about all these things that have led up to this point that we're in. It gets creepy. It really does.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the technological things we've seen that are affecting jobs, that are affecting, our world today, that could be concerning in the line of something we should be watching out for?
Well, I think there's a couple things that are going on right now. You have artificial intelligence creating more automated jobs. People are losing their jobs in respect to artificial intelligence replacing them at some level. It doesn't necessarily mean that a robot has to take the physical place of the person, but a lot of times computers can automate different processes, and it removes like that middleman from the
I look
equation.
at the stores now, rural farms, you're not dealing with humans anymore.
Right.
Obviously Walmart, places like that. If you go into Redner's, that store there is a most of them, you're not dealing with the cashier at all.
Right.
Most of their lines now are self-checkout.
Yes. Yeah. That's a perfect example of what's happening now to the automation. And when we say artificial intelligence, it could be any computerized system that is set to automatically think and perform on its own by itself with very little maintenance. You also have like privacy violations. Artificial intelligence, you can't constrain it. You can't keep it in the boundaries because those boundaries don't yet exist. It's learning and growing, and all it takes is somebody to ask a question in a very roundabout way to get potential answers that they're not supposed to get. You know, that there's deep fakes. Artificial intelligence is used to take pictures or videos of people and animate it where it looks totally real. It mimics their voice perfectly, and you can make a video of a person saying and doing just about anything you want. It's not up much to the imagination. And you can create that nowadays. So you could say, oh, I have video evidence of this person saying these things, and make it look like it's a, you know, a little pinhole camera on your vest or something. And you can make them say whatever they want. And they weren't even there. So you have to really scrutinize the authenticity of, you know, videos and audio. Fake news is another thing. You can make people say whatever you want them to say, and it looks real. So you could, you know, put a high profile person on there to say a bunch of stuff, and people will just automatically believe it. The algorithms they use in social media, that can become biased by bad data that's being fed into the system, and the algorithms are like leaning more to the left than they are to the right, you know, for example, stuff like that. You know, how we talked about how it could affect the market for anybody that invests their money. Weapon automation, you know, just different things like that. They have mechanical artificial intelligence dogs, attack dogs in New York.
Yeah. Going back to that part that you said about the fake news, they had a Pentagon, a tweet that went out today about the Pentagon. They said it was false, but the tweet still went viral. And it says an apparently AI generated image sparked a brief dip in the stock market because of what was going on. And it said, a verified Twitter account called Bloom shared an ominous tweet beneath the words, large explosion near the Pentagon complex in Washington, D.C. Initial report, it showed an image of a huge plume of black smoke next to a vaguely Pentagon-like building. All of this was done with artificial intelligence. On closer inspection, the image was a fake, likely generated by artificial intelligence, and the report of an explosion was quickly debunked, though not before it was picked up by large accounts, including the Russian state media organ Russia Today. The tweet may have also briefly moved the stock market as the Dow Jones Industrial Complex dropped 85 points within 4 minutes. Then it rebounded just as quickly. This is the
And
world
there
we
it
live
is.
in. Yeah.
People are not going to be able to know truth from lie.
Yes.
What's real, what's fake. But we're waiting. We have been waiting for justice, right, in the political sphere. And that justice is going to involve the bringing to light of a lot of bad stuff, right? But that gives them an excuse if that's not real. That never happened. We never did that. And I'm not going to go into all the things that it could be right now, but you see how that could be. What a wonderful, convenient thing to be able to say that was AI. That wasn't real. I was never there. I wasn't on that plane. What are you talking about? No.
Right.
But
yeah, I didn't go to that island.
yeah, but it's like, it's all baked in, man.
Right.
It's all baked in.
Yeah.
You know, and but we were talking about the different things that happened to automate all kind of things that humans used to do. Well, COVID set the ground for that. Great, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
It just accelerated that whole thing really nicely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. Bill Gates I'm going to make computer viruses and then sell the antivirus.
Yeah, to it.
Yeah, 30 years later.
Wow.
But it's crazy because I think that the general average public should begin to get a little concerned when artificial intelligence is implemented in our infrastructure, when it's being implemented in like public works or transportation or the power grid, for example, because eventually they're going to try to eliminate the need to have a human being. He might be a troll with his club, but he's dressed in a fine business suit and it looks like he knows what he's doing. But we just got to get rid of that guy and have artificial intelligence sort of monitor these controls here. And what's to stop that thing at that point from saying, oh, I got to shut down power to a couple city blocks over here because my superior intelligence has determined the need to do so from all these variables that I see. And you think that thing's going to explain itself to us?
No.
And that now all these people are sitting there without power or can't get water or whatever. It depends on how deeply integrated this thing is. But I think that should be a legit concern, is when this stuff starts spreading out to like local kind of facilities and infrastructure. I think then there's a cause for concern.
And let's face it, we're in a situation now where we do not have enough skilled workers to do these everyday jobs. And because of this, companies and government organizations are looking for ways to cut down on manpower. One of the biggest expenses for workers is healthcare insurance that's been mandated by the Obamacare Act. So because of this, and let's not forget this, they just made the minimum wage $15 an hour. So a lot of companies are bringing people in at $15 an hour, but you can only work a certain amount of hours before you have to be cut off. And the companies cannot afford to hire multiple people. So they're looking for ways through intelligence, through technology, to cut their costs. And if I have to hire somebody for $15 an hour, why not get a computer to do everything?
Yeah, because even when you can afford to hire somebody and have them work 3 hours a day, twice a week, when they show up to the job site, this is what they do.
Yep.
Tell me to do what?
Yep.
That's what you get.
Right.
And they're not going to put up with that. A machine won't do that to you. You know what I mean? It'll just kill you.
Right. But all the different things are working together. The dumbing down of culture is real. That's something like if you guys heard about the TikTok algorithms or whatever, but it's like in China, where TikTok came from, right? They limit use to their young people, and I guess maybe all of their users, right? You only get this amount of time, right? But their algorithms strongly favor like educational and informative and useful videos. And in America, it's all about those wonderful dances that people do in tight clothes, and that is pretty much it. That's upvoted. That's what it is, but it's entrenched in the system. They are feeding our people in America garbage, and then so we have a people who are dumbed down, so self-involved, constantly looking to see if they have any more likes or follows. But there's a great understanding of the relation of depression and social media, with especially like younger girls, teenage girls, school age girls, and all that. And it gets all related to, they're so into the social media and what's going on there that their mood and everything is just all based on that. And this whole thing has caused our people to be so much lesser than they really are, so self-focused, so in this fake reality, right?
Yes.
TikTok a fake reality. I mean, I'm sure there's some things that are useful, but the reward center of your brain that's rewarded for doing stupid stuff, it's like that's in the people now.
Yes.
It's their life now. And it's fake. It'll all go away, So everything's working together. All these seemingly unrelated things, they're all part of that big circle of darkness.
Yeah. There's kids in China in elementary school that are being taught how to safely handle guns, how to load and unload and even clean them, how to participate in self-defense and things of that nature. They're training their kids to defeat us in war.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's real. And I mean, they're doing it. What are our kindergarten, or excuse me, elementary school generation kids learning?
They can be anything they want, bro. And
Yeah.
that's the message.
Pick and choose what you want, who you want to be. Choose your reality,
Yeah.
basically.
That's exactly right.
Wake up, people, please, dear God.
Yeah,
Wake up.
it's dangerous. Wow. But yeah, that's a lot of things that I think with I'm so glad you brought up the story about the market, stock market little scare for 4 minutes there, Chris, because this thing can just generate an image, send a tweet on some big blue check account, something that people look at, and that's what the stock market is based on. It's not like it was in the 1800s with all the dudes smoking the pipes with the big, those chairs with the huge 9-foot tall backs on them by the fireplace and stuff, and it was their job, their lives were on the line to manage somebody's money. It's not like that anymore.
Now
It's just, Cardi B posted a tweet and said, "Oh, I don't like this one brand," and then all of a sudden the stock plummets. They lose billions
overnight.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Closing thoughts.
So sad. Oh boy. Well, so be aware, people. Open your eyes. Open your eyes to what's going on. Open your eyes that the reality that God made for us here, our existence upon the earth is very purposeful. We're supposed to grow, we're supposed to hurt, we're supposed to have all these different parts of life, that have a purpose. But this AI is trying to replace everything that God made. It wants to change who you are, it wants to change the reality of life, all kind of different things. And we're going to need to fight for our purpose like never before. And just a good common sense decision will go a good ways. Don't give in to all these things we've been talking about, all these different seemingly unrelated things that are very related. Be wise of how you're trying to be duped into a system that is meant to control you and steal your soul. We can look at the mark of the beast, right? So it's trying to destroy you, and it's trying to subvert God's original design. And that's the enemy in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be in the coming of the Son of Man. And I believe that the innocence of artificial intelligence is lost, and it can only be developed as a tool of deception at this point because of the depravity and all that sickness that's just in the world, and it's cultivating into the end times, which we know how that will unfold. And it's the enemy's world system. And I just think that we need to be exercising wisdom as we advance, in our years, as we grow in the society that's taking shape around us. I think we have to retain Holy Spirit values, stay in touch with the Holy Spirit, so that we can educate other people who may not understand the risks or the dangers of how the devil will use any system, but particularly with artificial intelligence in the days ahead. I think it's important to, for lack of a better way to say it, just stick to the roadmaps, guys. Read, read your word, read a roadmap, and I think you'll be all set with your Holy Spirit in there telling you where to go and what to do.
And there's no reason for any believer to be afraid of what is going on, why it's going on, how it's going on, because as we read earlier, Revelation 13, these are all roadmap signposts, directional arrows that are taking us to where we ultimately want to go, which is to be with God in heaven forever. It's neat to see how things are changing, just in my short time span, here on this earth. So many different things have come about. And it's funny, I remember being in school and watching the Jetsons and thinking, wow, we're going to have cars that float around. And we're pretty close to having that now. If you look at the drone technology, they're getting them to the ability of being able to, put humans inside of them. We have the SpaceX program. They're sending everyday average citizens at a price out into space. That wasn't possible before. Now, if you weren't in the military or if you weren't a part of NASA, you weren't going up into space. I remember they launched the Challenger with the teacher, the school teacher, who passed away when the Challenger exploded. That was like a rare thing. But now, William Shatner's going up in space, and Elon Musk, and all of these different people. Technologies is not it's not bad, but we just need to be aware of what's going on so that we can be prepared, pray, intercede, make sure that we're in the right position. You're going to see different things in the days ahead with the technology, the artificial intelligence related to credit and debit card systems. So eventually, there's going to be a digital currency. In the United States, there's going to be a digital currency worldwide. They now have stores, Apple stores. You walk in, you don't talk to anybody. It scans the items that you pick up, charges your Apple card, and you walk out.
Yep.
Artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence.
Scary.
Well, we thank you for joining us. This has been The World Exposed, episode number 5. Please make sure you put some comments out there, like us, share us. But ultimately, we want you to be people who think. Thanks for joining us.
People who think.